Okay, and welcome back to our discussions of the MySql WorkBench. I'm going to close the unconnected tab up here, and also this root connection that I had made earlier, leaving us with just one connected editor here. And I'm going to open up our script here within this tab, MySql database, and just as we did before. However, because it's opened under a connected tab, it's connected as well and ready to submit to the server, which we'll do in a second. So this script actually has several commands in it, and you'll see semicolons there, which is familiar with Java. But unlike in Java, the semicolon is not part of the language. So in Java, there's statement terminators like this period at the end of the English sentence. It's part of the language. And as you know, the Java compiler will fuss at you if you leave it out. In SQL's case, the semicolon is not really part of the language. Not part of the language at all. It's simply a signal to the client that command is ready to submit to the server. So the server never sees the semicolon. So as the client reads through this, when I hit the submit button here, as the client reads through this script here, it's going to submit each one of these commands as it encounters a semicolon. So that's the script, and I'll read it in a second. Let's look at over here in the schemas tab here. So you may see it this way. But over here again, this is heavily tabbed. So always look for tabs here in Workbench. This is also a tab here where we can see the schemas. Now schemas is essentially a word meaning database to it. It's more of a theoretical word, more like the RDBMS word for it. I think it should be called databases. But anyway, these are the databases that I have installed here in my local installation of MySql. You'll see a different list, of course. And you may not have run the classic models script yet, but if you have, you'll see this here. Now, if I'm running this afresh, brand new, so classic models doesn't exist, you need to hit refresh in order to be able to refresh that view, because this schemas is loaded when the schemas tree is loaded when the connection is first made, and it will not be refreshed unless you manually refresh it with this key. Even if you run an active script that creates a brand new database, you'll need to refresh it here. Now let's start this script. We won't understand everything about this script on the first go round. We'll return to the script several times, and in a few days you'll understand everything about this script from beginning to end. So beginning. We have comments here and block comments here, / star / as in a lot of high-level languages. So we have a block comment here. We have some commented out statements here. Our first statement that actually is interesting to us, line 26, create database, classic models. Now notice here backticks here. Backticks are the key that appear above the tab key on the upper left-hand side of the keyboard. Now these backticks aren't necessary here. They use them. The creators of this database script use them, so I'll mention them. Backticks. They aren't necessary here. It creates it creates this database called classic models. When are they necessary? When you use a special symbol in the identifier that you've created. So you put a space in there, you put a $sign in there, you put a hashtag in there. If you use backticks, that will literally translate into the name. It's not a good idea. For example, you can use a keyword, a language keyword like create table for a database name, as long as you put it in backticks. That's not the case here, but nevertheless, the authors of this script have used backticks, and that's what they are. Make sure you distinguish with those if you use backticks. Make sure you distinguish the backticks from the individual ticks, the normal tick that's underneath the double quotes. Let's go roundabout to the comment syntax in SQL again. So block comments, as I mentioned, / star / You can also create a comment in SQL with a hashtag comment. Also, that's a single line comment. Also, -- space, also comment. So the space is required in order for that to be a legal comment. All of these are one-line comments. And then the * here, block comment. So we have 3 different styles of comment. And then there's another syntax that's evident in this script as well. And this is the exclamation point followed by actually a version number. And that says run this if the MySQL version is greater than 4.1.1 here. So there's a 2-digit version numbers here, and for the major version number and a minor version number. So again, this comment says to the MySQL server, run this command only if the SQL version is greater than or equal to 4.1.1. Also, this would be ignored if you wanted to say run this script on a different version of SQL, like Microsoft SQL Server. So commands that are specific to MySQL can be commented out in that fashion, and that's what we're seeing here. So these comments are going to run for us, and we'll get into what all they do in later lectures. So create database, if not exist, classic models. So that creates the brand new database, or what we're called a schema over here, but only if it doesn't exist. And then we have the use command, use classic models. So that's implied that we're going to use classic models for the rest of the script. So we don't have to explicitly name the database over and over again. There's a couple of different ways to do that. Give the full name, so create database dot classic models dot customers would be fully qualifying the name of this, not unlike the package name in Java. And so now we'll get to the drop table if exists. So drop table if exists. So if the table doesn't exist and we do drop table customers, that would be an error. And when you have a script error, that's it. One line. Once the error occurs, it doesn't recover from it. So each one of these commands is going to be executed by the server, and if an error occurs, the entire script will be pulled. So drop table means delete the table. Notice there's no "are you sure?" They expect you as a SQL programmer to know what you're doing. So if you had actually business data here, this is somewhat of a dangerous command, drop table if exists. We'll completely delete that table, and then followed immediately by the create table. So you can't create a table that already exists, so we drop it or delete it right before we recreate it in this script. And here we see the create table, and we'll get into the syntax here a little bit more later, but you can see it's defining the columns we talked about earlier in the RDBMS lecture. Customer number, integer, customer name, string, varchar 50, variable length character, maximum length 50. That's what that says. Again, we're not going to get too much in the weeds of this script to understand it all, but later on we will for sure understand everything about the script. So we create a table, and then we insert. This is actually database command to insert data into this table. So we've created the customers table, and this is responsible for inserting our test data. So the self-contained script, when we run it, it will completely run from beginning to end and do what we want. I'm going to do Control-Z here to undo my comments. We have an asterisk here. I'm just going to open this command, open this file again, open recents, and we'll see that. I just didn't want to run it with changes, and I didn't want to save my changes. So I'm going to run this script with the lightning bolt here, which again runs every command in this script. So as we can see here in the output window, each one of the commands, that is, each one of the commands that ends with a semicolon, is responded to here. So if you counted the number of semicolons in this script file, you will see an entry in here in the output for each one of those things, and that's how the server responded to that. So the blue check marks or the yellow warning's fine. It keeps going, and we'll go ahead and go this all the way to the end. So 36 commands successfully executed by this script, and if you didn't have classic models here before, you need to hit refresh in order to see the result of that script. Okay, next time we're going to take a look at some more aspects of the MySql Workbench. Thank you.